Hello and welcome back to the Spiritualist Church of Revelation's supplemental videos for the Mediumship Development class. My name is Russell Chan. I'm one of the student mediums at the church who is working towards a certification with the NSAC. And today is part 2 of the video determining the spirit's relationship to the sitter. So in the first video, I covered one method, which was have spirit draw from your own family members. The second method was to imagine a family tree superimposed over the sitter. But in this video, I'm going over the third method, which is the position, location, and reference to the sitter. This is the method I use with more or less good results, and it's the one that a lot of other mediums use, and it is mentioned in quite a few books on mediumship development. First, though, I would like to introduce to you Mr. Eaton. Mr. Eaton is named that way for Eaton Canyon above the city of Monrovia in the San Gabriel Mountains. I found Eaton wandering the streets of Monrovia after church one day. He looked kind of lost, so I brought him back home, and he's going to be helping today. He will be your sitter. So as you look at the YouTube screen, imagine that you are looking directly at your recipient out in the congregation or in your one-on-one sessions. So let's get down to business. Your right shoulder, which would be Eaton's left shoulder, would be the father's side of the sitter's family. Let's see. So if you're looking at your recipient, yes. So a spirit who shows up on this shoulder is usually what I consider dad's side. Your left, which would be Eaton's right shoulder, would be the mother's side of the sitter's family. So, what if the spirit shows up here, but further back and maybe up a riser? So this is what I call the grandparent's position. And likewise, further back and further up higher, this is what I would consider great-grandparent. Uncles and aunts, I find, still show up behind the shoulder, but maybe just further out instead of right behind. And one of the examples I can give to you would be Detective 3. I was giving a reading for Detective 3. They are two pay grades higher than a Detective 1 and Detective 2, and they usually end up supervising detectives and police officers. And a lady showed up behind her mother's shoulder side. So if Mr. Eaton was the detective, this lady showed up right here behind this shoulder. And my ego misinterpreted the information because my ego wants to be accepted and right and doesn't want to be turned away or made wrong. So when I saw the spirit, it should have been the mother's side. I made the mistake of believing it was her aunt on her mother's side because I couldn't believe that this detective's mother would have died at the detective's age. I mean, the detective looks young to me, so I was terrified at mentioning a dead mom. So my ego decided to misinterpret and say, oh, a dead favorite aunt on your mom's side. And when I told her this, she kind of hesitated and said, well, based upon the description of the lady you're giving me, the way she looked, the clothes she wore, I don't even have a mother, an aunt on my mother's side of the family that I know of. But Russell, this really sounds like my mom, and she passed away 6 months ago. So again, please go with what you have and trust spirit. I should have done that. So what about peer groups? Siblings and cousins, I find, appear to the side of the shoulder, right here. And I find that coworkers and friends are also on the side, but they stand further away. What about children? So children, I find, appear oftentimes in front of the sitter, usually near the floor, sometimes to the side of the sitter, but lower, of course, and trying to get the living parent's attention. One example of this was a police officer's wife. He had brought her to me for a private reading, and I saw a little girl going up to her side and yanking gently on her blouse and her jeans, looking up to get her attention. And I thought, could this be a daughter? Well, I don't know if she has any children, but I'm just going to say what I saw. So I said, I saw a little girl cuddling up next to you, pulling on the side of your blouse, and then I saw a little white coffin. So I said, whoever this little girl is, she was very, very close to you, and she died young. And it turns out that this was indeed the deceased young daughter of the police officer's wife. Another example is that sometimes children in spirit will also like move around in the front and climb up and maybe hug or nestle themselves underneath the chin of the parent who's still alive. This happened in church once where I saw a spirit child do that, and when I mentioned that, the recipient burst out into tears. What about pets? Pets move all over the place. One time when I saw a spirit dog in church, they were kind of running up and down the aisle. So pets kind of run all over the place, I've discovered. One example of this was Blizzard the cat. I was giving a reading to a lady over the telephone who ran an occult and psychic shop, and she was running low on mediums working there. She had plenty of tarot card readers and healers. So when she found out that I was planning to do mediumship, she did a telephone test for me. And during the reading, I said, hold on a second. All right, who owns the white fluffy cat that just dashed out from underneath my altar and ran into the living room and disappeared? And she said, Blizzard, you saw Blizzard? And she texted me a picture of her deceased cat, Blizzard, a white fluffy ball. What if spirit has trouble standing still? This has happened before. And the literature doesn't mention much on it, but I had a personal experience with this. One time in church, I was giving a greeting to a woman, and a man showed up, which I believe was like her father, but he kept bouncing all over the place behind her. And when I asked him why he was doing that, it turns out that he had unresolved issues with his daughter, and that his daughter did not accept him as dad, but rather just as biological father. So what that indicated to me was that he couldn't commit fully as a parent, or she did not fully see him as her parent. Lastly, there is a fourth method, and it's called using your other clairs, like claircognizance, clairsentience, and clairaudience. Don't be afraid to use those in conjunction with what you saw me demonstrate today. So again, thank you for joining in with the video, and blessings to you. I hope that this pandemic ends soon. And thank you, Mr. Eaton, for also helping out today with the video. You were a really good sitter. And again, blessings to you.